contested issue when dealing with Eritrea is the question how many people are actually living in Eritrea. In reports at international level, often figures are mentioned between 5 and 6 million people as Eritrean living in Eritrea. As no census had been taken, there are no really reliable baselines. However, the Eritrean government, since the early 90s, instructed the local administrations, the lowest level of the administrative structure in Eritrea, to maintain population registers. The data from the various local administrations are gathered at sub-SOBA and then at SOBA level, and then at the national level in the Ministry of Local Government. So in fact, due to these data, the Eritrean government has a very clear idea what the actual size of the Eritrean population is, but they never made any official pronouncement on this size. According to the data from the Ministry of Local Government, the Eritrean population in 2000, at the end of 2000, was 2.9 million. That accords very well with the calculated figure for the Eritrean resident population of 1993, which on the basis of the referendum figures which are available had been calculated to be something like 2.2 million, in the range of that. Now, with a population figure of 2.9 million in 2000 and a moderate population growth of 2% annually, the Eritrean population in 2016 would have been close to 4 million. This population growth figure of 2% appears to be reasonable based on various services undertaken by UNICEF and other international agencies in Eritrea. Despite the fact that some families still have a lot of children, many families have reduced the number of children, and also people tend to marry later. At the end of 2016, based on the figures from the Ministry of Local Government transmitted to the National Planning Ministry, the resident population in Eritrea was only 3.2%. So, in other words, there is a gap, a deficit of around 800,000 between the actual resident population and the resident population one should have expected based on the 2000 figures. This can be explained in two ways. One thing is, since 2002, around 500,000 Eritreans have fled abroad. So, secondly, 300,000 Eritrean children were not born because of this large number of refugees, and secondly, because the number of marriages and the number of children born in marriage has steeply declined within Eritrea due to the social effects of prolonged national service. With a residence population of only 3.2 million, it is clear that all the economic and social planning of the Eritrean government, based on much higher population projections, have been rendered useless. The Eritrean labor force is much smaller than calculated, and that also has effects also on the productivity of the economy and in many other areas. Even worse, when one looks at the details of the Eritrean population, one finds very disturbing trends. At the end of 2016, the Eritrean Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs conducted, with international financial and technical support, an Eritrean labor force survey. It took the survey team 2 years to finalize the report, but this report was never published. I strongly believe that the report was not published because the findings of this report are very disturbing. One thing, it shows that the Eritrean population, as mentioned before, is much smaller than everyone believed and the Eritrean authorities officially pretended. Secondly, the social data contained in the survey indicate that the Eritrean as a society has been deeply skewed by the impact of the migration abroad and also internal migrations. When one looks at the regional population growth based on the SOBAs, the comparison between the figure of 2000 and 2016 indicates that some SOBAs actually have lost population. Some SOBAs had a population growth more or less in line with the average national population growth of 20%. And one SOBA has a very high population growth, far above the national average. The census, or the data of the National Population Register from the Ministry of Local Affairs, local government, indicates that at the end of 2016, the urbanization rate in Eritrea was about 30%. Contrary to the perception of most Eritreans that Eritrea is a highly urbanized society, the urbanization rate in Eritrea with 30% is below the urbanization rate of many other African states of comparable size and development. Within the urban areas, the gender imparity is quite marked. You have 45% as a male and 55% female. The data also indicate that among the households of Eritrea, due to the emigration of males, nearly 40% of the households in Eritrea currently are female-headed households, which is one of the highest incidences of female-headed households in Africa, which has serious social and economic implications. Female-headed households generally are economically weaker than the complete households where you have a couple, complete family unit. The women have more difficulties getting a full-time employment. They have only employment in areas where they earn less than men. So the household income is much lower than if there would be a man wage earner in the family, which results that the children of this family have less chances of economic support in their education. Also, the age structure is skewed. In the age group of 18 to 45, the percentage of this age group in the overall population is markedly less than in comparable neighboring states due to the emigration of these people abroad. Also, even in the younger generations, the share of children between the age of 0 to 14 is much lower than one would expect because of the depression of the marriage rate and the number of children born due to the negative effect of national service. this age category is much lower, which will result also in a reduced population growth in the coming years when these smaller generations enter into the reproductive stage. Another area where there is a major impact of emigration on social structure is that currently in Eritrea you have about 20% of the children up to the age of 17 are not living with one or both parents, but they are living in foster arrangements, most of them as relatives. That indicates that their biological parents, one parent or two, have fled abroad. What that means for a society when a full 20% of the young generation is growing up in unstable social settings, even as these children are living with relatives, they do not have the same social security in this arrangement than biological children of their foster parents. They are always a little bit strangers within this family context where they are living. That has major implications for the development of healthy social personalities, integrated social personalities, which would become stable, mentally stable and socially stable adults. So this is, even if the emigration would stop now, if the parents would return, this will be a legacy for the Eritrean society for the decades to come.